Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you today. Good to have some people online. And my name is Julie Dimmick. I am a therapist here at Cache Valley Counseling. And I look forward to a fun session tonight with you. Um, this meeting tonight will probably be about 30 minutes, maybe not as long as some of them are. And we will um, I'm excited about our topic and excited about what we're going to share tonight. And it's a little bit of kind of a variation on some of the things we've talked about. And I'm just going to read a little disclaimer as we go. Um, we share skills here in this Max group to help make your life a little easier. We talk about all kinds of different stuff here, and hopefully, you've gained some benefits from that. And this is something that you can come back to later on and rewatch. The videos are posted on YouTube. To clarify, this is not therapy, but it's just a group of people coping with a variety of different problems and issues. Information discussed and shared in the group is intended to support the therapeutic process and to increase the readiness for change, but we're not actually a therapy group. If you are feeling suicidal or having life threatening thoughts, this group is not a place to discuss that. Please consider calling 988 and getting in touch with your own therapist as soon as possible, or reaching out to a loved one to help you access additional resources. In fact, we just had a training today here in our clinic about supporting people who are suicidal or are having self-harm or are not safe. And we had people from our local hospital come and talk to us about that process of what happens in the emergency room and how they can help you if you are in deep distress. We are recording the video, and as I mentioned, it will be available on our YouTube channel to rewatch. You can, if you don't want your camera on, that's fine. If you want to change your name on your Zoom profile, that's all right as well. But groups are very powerful when we learn from each other. And if you have things that you would like to contribute, you can raise your hand in the chat, and I'll be happy to respond to you. So, with that in mind, I want to introduce a passion and a love that I have, and it is a passion for great books. And since about the time I was a stay at home mom for nearly 30 years, and I loved reading children's literature and to our children. And as they got older, they got into chapter books. And then as they got even older and a little more capable, I was able to kind of return to focus on books that I really enjoyed. And I'm an audiobook listener. As a busy young mom, I would try to multitask and listen while I was doing the work around my home and while I was driving places. And I've kept that habit now for about 30 plus years. And I just love learning. And here's a quote to start the day. It's from Charles Gibbons. He said, "Knowledge is the surest and quickest path to success in any area of endeavor." And books are a source of that knowledge. There's many ways to learn, but listening or reading books is a very powerful way, and it can be life changing when we get the right kind of help, especially to help us with our mental well being. And so tonight, what we're going to do is I will share some of my favorites. I picked a stack, and I could go on for a long time, so I just chose some of my all time favorites. And if you have other ones, you're welcome to put it in the chat or on the YouTube channel. You can make comments below of books that have helped you or helped other ones, loved ones that you care about deeply. So I will do a little bit of categorizing here. I have some children's literature, and then I have just some classics. Let me just jump right in. So this is a book, and it's Christmas season, Christmas time. If you're looking for great books for loved ones and family, this is a classic, Gift from the Sea. It is written by, Anne Morrow Lindbergh. Her husband, Charles Lindbergh, was the first person to cross the Atlantic Sea. by aircraft, and um, they both had public exposure because of that. And she was the daughter of a diplomat. They had 5 children, and one of their children was kidnapped. This was published in 1955. And I believe the child was never recovered. It was called the Lindbergh kidnapping, I believe. You might check that out. And in an attempt to recover from this trauma, she went to a little beach cottage off the coast of Florida, if I'm remembering, and she wrote this book. And it's poetic, it's powerful. It is perhaps maybe addressed to women a little more, but the wisdom and the grace with which she writes can apply to absolutely anybody. But she talks about, as she walks along the beach, she picks up shells, and then she makes analogies to the pressures and challenges in her life and learning to live a more basic life. This cottage that she stayed was just kind of a shell of a cottage and just had the bare minimum, the bare basic requirements. And she just identified that how simple our life can become, but how complex it is. And keep in mind, this was written in the mid 50s, so she would have quite a commentary on the speed of life today. I've had people, I post as on occasion, I post on my social media accounts books that I love or books that I ask for people. And several people have said, oh, this is a book I have to listen to or read every year. And so a wonderful book that I would recommend for people of all ages that can be of help to you. She uses a little bit of humor in there too, which is super fun. Another book, and one that, sometimes people say, what's your favorite book? And this would have to be in a very top, probably top 5 for me, maybe top 10. The book is called Man's Search for Meaning. It is written by a psychiatrist, Viktor Frankl. Frankl was captured during World War II and was taken into Nazi camps. And he, because he was a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, he had different experiences than many of the prisoners there. And he was given some privileges, but not many. And he began to discover this age-old question of man's search for meaning, of all his freedoms had been taken away. They took away his identity through his shaving all the prisoners' heads, giving them all similar clothes, took away all their jewelry, anything that identified them as a unique individual, and tried to just make them all neutral. And he said that in the midst of all of this, he discovered the greatest freedom of all. He said, I had no freedoms. Like, my whole day was dictated. I was punished. I was forced to do horrific experiments on the Jewish prisoners because he was a medical doctor, had very little freedom that way. But he did begin to find small places where he could exercise some power. And it would come in little things like one of the stories I love in the book is he was given access to the Nazi guards, and because of his role there in the camps. And he said one day he found a little flower growing in this terrible, barren, gray, awful, prison is what it was. And he said he took that flower and put it in a glass of water. And when none of the guards were around, he took it and put it on the desk of one of the officers. And he said, in that moment, I had the greatest freedom because I had chosen my response to this captivity. Another time he was standing in line for food, and they gave watered down broth and these hard, crusty biscuits. And he said, of course, we were all starving. We were walking skeletons. But he said, I became the victor in that moment. I became completely powerful because in that moment, I took part of that crust of bread, I broke it in half, and I handed it to the prisoner behind me. He said, in that moment, I was free to choose my response. So his one-liner in his book, well, he has a lot of wisdom, but one of them is, between stimulus and response lies the greatest space in all the world. For in that lies our freedom to choose our response. And sometimes when stressors happen, or if you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, it seems like you just have these knee jerk reactions to stressors around you. And so, hopefully, if you're in therapy or you're just doing some self care things, you learn to slow that down through breathing, through calming down that nervous system that's overactive. And when you calm it down, you have freedom to choose a different response than that typical knee jerk reaction or the fight, flight, or freeze. And so I would definitely recommend Frankl's book. Of course, any book on World War II and the Holocaust is a deep read, but I'll just give you one more little example on this. His wife and I believe one of his children were also taken captive. They were put in different camps, and they did not know throughout the duration of their captivity if the other family member was alive or dead. So Frankl has a whole chapter on love. And again, this man searched for meaning. He said, I came to know that love was the greatest force in the universe. And so what he chose to believe was that his wife was still alive. And he, excuse me, he would picture their wonderful memories before captivity, their life together, their family, their children. And he would also picture that she was lovely and radiant. And if you've watched any Holocaust movies or read any books, you know that it was anything but a place where you would feel radiant. But in his mind, he was so filled with love for her. And he said, I came to a point, again, remember, between stimulus and response lies your power to choose. He said, I chose to believe she was alive. And that power, that belief sparked hope inside me. And that's what kept me alive. That's what kept me going. And in the end, I'm not going to give you a spoiler on that, how that turned out, but he said it really didn't matter if she was alive or if she had been killed, because in my heart, she was living, she was warm, she was contributing. We were having a wonderful relationship. And so that power of love, he talks a lot about that. Anyway, great if you're looking for Christmas ideas again, so someone who'd like to think differently about that. I'll go a little lighter now with a children's storybook. And let me tell you, in fact, let me get the book I read to some clients one day. Hold on, it's over here on my bookcase. I read this story to a couple. They're probably in their 40s. It's called I Believe in You. And I love children's storybooks because they can teach really complex ideas and principles in very, very basic ways. And let me just pause for a second. I see someone else has joined. What we're doing here is sharing great literature that can help you with your mental health, that can great gift ideas for the holidays, because mental health, brain health is at the forefront of our needs today as a society. Anyway, I read this book and I thought, maybe it'll be, they both work at Utah State University. And I thought maybe it'll be a little too basic. Well, they came back the next week and they had purchased it for all of their friends for Christmas and gave it as presents to them. So you are lucky. I'm going to read you this book. It's written and illustrated by Marianne Richmond. I Believe in You is dedicated to my 4 kids. I will always be on your team. Let me switch this around just a little bit. You came into our family with a big, big job to do, the one of growing up into the one and only you. Excuse me, let me shift my screen just a little bit so I can, there we go. Some days it's super easy and others kind of rough. Mondays, bring it on, turns into Fridays, had enough. Whether it's sunny or stormy, whether you're happy or blue, I'm here to say without a doubt, I believe in you. This speaks also of the type of therapy we do in our clinic. We focus on attachment theory, which says we need each other, we're wired for connection, and that growth comes in loving, safe relationships. When your project seems too hard and you want to go to bed, I believe in your smart thinking to learn and grow instead. You've probably felt like that person. When the team you like says no, some other kid will play. I believe in your awesome skills to shine another way. Probably most of us have had that moment when we're not been chosen, and it can be at an adult level. I know of an adult right now who has lost his job and is working really hard at finding a new one and having that confidence that other skills will come along. When the monsters in your in your closet seem too big for you to fight, I believe in your true courage to know it will be all right. And as we deal with mental health and deal with trauma, with past wounds and hurts, with abuse, sometimes these monsters seem almost insurmountable. When you make a big mistake or you choose a hurtful way, I believe in your stand-up truth to say what you should say. That correction is something I often hear with clients is, oh man, if that person would just take ownership, if they would just acknowledge their mistake, it would relieve me so much. And that does take a lot of courage to to apologize when we make a mistake. When the day dips up and down like a roller coaster ride, I believe in your quick laugh to love the lows and highs. When everyone else stands tall, looking so tough and strong, I believe in your brave spirit that's in you all along. I love that picture. We probably all had that feeling too, feeling so scared at something new and different. When your best friend is unkind, I believe in your playful heart to find new. Oh, excuse me. When your best friend is unkind or doesn't want to play with you, I believe in your playful heart to find new friends who do. And this is written at a child's level, but I think we can all relate with that. One of the biggest challenges right now for the young adult population, at least in our area, is isolation and loneliness. They can be surrounded by students and classmates and roommates, but can feel so lonely. And helping people reach out and, the power of friendship and play is just immeasurable. When learning something new makes you want to stop and quit, I believe in your great attitude go and conquer it. So this is kind of what things look like in Logan, Utah. We're starting to get ready for winter, and we have a new skating rink in downtown Logan, in fact. Your job of growing up takes hard work, I know, but each day is an adventure. Each problem helps you grow. And I want you to remember, I'm here to watch the ride. I believe in one amazing you with all my love and pride. That last comment, I just want to comment on more than one person in therapy has told me about the difficulties of their youth and the conflict and tension in their family and home, and just really some horrific things can happen to people. But I've had more than one client tell me that they had one person who stepped into their life at the right time and really believed in them. And one individual, she's like, this was their neighbor. And she said, I would go over there to play. And when I went to their home, I felt loved. I felt valued. And she said, they just worked me right into their family. They took me on family trips. She said, I was even on their job list of things that had to be done around the house. And she said, that gave me a feeling of belonging and that I was of importance and that this was a safe, sane home. And so that the idea that literally you can be that person for someone else, or you might be the one who needs to receive that. Back to my top, probably 10. This one, outside of perhaps some spiritual reading I have done that have been very meaningful for my faith, this book has probably impacted me more than any other book outside of scripture. The book is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Powerful Lessons in Personal Change by the author Stephen R. Covey. He went on to write a lot of other fantastic books. He passed away a few years ago, but Covey started the Franklin Covey Leadership Center, and he went into literally big businesses throughout the world as an international business leader and taught these principles. Quite frankly, this is a book I had to take very slowly. You will see, I actually gave this to my husband on his 35th birthday. There's a little sweet message. And then I took the book over. He had to go get his own copy because I would read it slowly and I would make notes and highlight and comment. It's a book about taking responsibility for your life and making you kind of the captain of your ship. The first 3 habits are what he calls private victory, those personal things that you do every day that puts you in charge of you. And then the other 3 habits are about relationships and building strength with other people. And then the final habit is called sharpening the saw, where you go through all 6 habits on a regular basis and sharpen the saw. Covey, the book is full of personal examples. He was a father with a lot of children, and he would, I'm sure with permission from his children, tell stories about them and mistakes that he made along the way and where he learned some of these powerful principles. And definitely, I think our family is going to kind of go through this book this next year as a family. And all of us will perhaps read a chapter a month, and then we'll get together on Zoom or in person and talk about it, how we as a family can adopt principles that really work. He also has the book, just pulling this off my bookshelf here, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families, and that's Dr. Covey with a couple of his grandchildren, I think. So definitely recommend that one. And I said this will just be about a half hour because I could talk for a long time about all the books that I love. This is one that most people seem to be aware of. It's a very light read, very helpful. It's not heavy psychology. The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And he just identifies that we all have ways that we like to give love and ways we like to receive and be loved. And so he takes time with, see if I can remember them, words of affirmation. If you're a words person, that, someone affirming you, noticing, validating you. The second habit is quality time, like just spending time together. And so here's a funny story with all that. We like to backpack, and a few years ago, my husband and I and 2 of my adult son and his wife went on a backpacking trip for like 3 days, and we're hiking along, and it's a fairly steep incline, and we've got our packs on our pack, and David, my son, and I are just hiking along, and we are just talking, and he loves books, and we love to share ideas, and we're like, he's just a super adventurous guy, so he's talking to me about all this stuff, and I'm kind of rattling back with him, and we're going, and he's like, Mom, you got to stop and look at this. I'm like, what? He's like, look at Dad and Kaisha. I'm like, yeah, they're up ahead just a little bit. What's up? And he's like, they're not saying a word. They're just enjoying the quiet together. And we both just laugh because we are both words of affirmation. And my husband and my daughter-in-law are just that quality time, like just being in the present, sharing a positive activity. And so it's kind of a fun thing to notice. And there's little assessments you can check. The third one is receiving gifts. Some people, and it's not necessarily in a materialistic thing, but that's just a very meaningful thing to give gifts, a very thoughtful gift, or to receive it. The 4th love language is acts of service. and doing things for people. And the fifth one is physical touch. And we're not talking about a sexual, intimate type of touch, but just affection and hugs are a way that people communicate that way. And so most of us have perhaps a blend of those, and we can learn what your love language is and also how to meet the needs of other people. Like the son I was telling you about, physical touch is not his love language. And I wanted to give him hugs all the time. So one of my rare hugs and throughout his entire high school was the day he got his Eagle Scout award. And he's standing up there, the thing, and the scout leader said, "You need to give your mom a hug." So he walks over and he just like pats me like this. And so I count it lucky the few times I have had hugs by him, but he's super affectionate with his children now as an adult. So this one, I just want you to look at the title, because just the title alone is powerful. I don't have to make everything all better. At home, among friends, between spouses, and on the job. Sometimes we have a fixer part of us when someone is in distress or struggling or is having a lot of anxiety or worry. We have this fixer part that wants to go in and solve this and rescue the person. This book is just full of great ideas of how to let people own their own problems. You can be a good support to them, but let them keep kind of the monkey on their back while you support them. So he just says 6 practical principles that empower others to solve their own problems while enriching your relationships. And sometimes I'll just say this as a therapist to myself: I don't have to make everything all better. My job is to help them find the answers that they like, that they want. And we're kind of getting close to the end of this today. And so if you have some favorite books, I would love if you'd like to type them in the chat. And what I'll do is write down these books, and Bo, I'll give them to you. And if you could list them out. And just remember, it's just like a brief scattering of all the great books that are out there. Another book type of therapy I do is called Internal Family Systems. And this is by the author Richard Schwartz. The book is called No Bad Parts. The subtitle is Healing Trauma and Restoring Wholeness with the Internal Family Systems Model. And this is written for the layperson. Anyone could pick this up. It has a lot of great, just kind of common sense and some good workshop things you can do. The idea of parts of internal family systems is that our brain has lots of different parts. We might have an anxious part. We might have an OCD part. We might have some exiled parts that have been hidden away for a long time. We have protector parts that keep us from experiencing pain in our life. And sometimes that can be healthy and sometimes that can be devastating. And I love that. I just fell in love with internal family systems a few years ago. And that, besides the couples therapy that we do here, internal family systems, or IFS, is my go-to model. Another fun book that's fairly new on the market is called Atomic Habits. Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results by James Clear. He starts the story out with his own adventure, his own learning process. He was in a terrible sports accident and had to relearn a lot of things, and just his journey to this. He talks about the British cycling team in here, and that they were always the lowest in the Tour de France and in competitions, and the amazing story that happened to the British cycling team that took them to the top, with learning little tiny habits over time, similar to Covey's book, but just the 1% more over time yields big results. All right, so I'm going to end with my most recent purchase, and I love it so much that I work with a group of teenagers, and I'm getting them all this book for Christmas. You're here for a reason, and I'd never heard of this author, Nancy Tillman, but I think you'll enjoy. She has a lot of books here, and I'm also going to give them to my grandchildren for Christmas. But it's wonderful for children and adults, and the message, particularly if people are finding a struggle with finding their identity and their purpose in life, and maybe not thinking that they're really impacting the world or helping people. So I think you'll enjoy the artwork with this and the message. You're here for a reason, you certainly are. The world would be different without you by far, if not for your hands and your eyes and your feet. The world, like a puzzle, would be incomplete. Even the smallest of things that you do blossom and multiply far beyond you. And that's really the thesis of the Atomic Habits book. A kindness, for instance, may trickle for days or set things in motion in different ways. It travels much further than you'll ever know. Under the treetops, over the snow. I was reading this to a little granddaughter, and she fell in love with that moose in the book, and just we had to point that moose out every time till it's wandered and floated and twirled, making things happen all over the world. Thank you. Somebody just put a book in the comment section. You're here for a reason. It's totally true. You're part of a world that is counting on you. So don't be too worried if some days fall flat. Good things can happen even from that. I love the art. I love the animal life and the scenery. Life can be tricky, there isn't a doubt. You'll skin your knees trying to figure it out. I get a hoot out of this one. But life works together, the good and the bad, the silly and awful, the happy and sad. To paint a big picture we can't always see, a picture that needs you most definitely. Remember that next time a day goes all wrong, to somebody else, you will always be strong. And that ball that you lose or that kite you let go could make someone's day. You just never know. You're here for a reason. If you think you're not, I would just say that perhaps you forgot. A piece of the world that is precious and dear would surely be missing if you were not here. If not for your smile and your laugh and your heart, this place we call home would be minus a part. Thank goodness you're here. Thank goodness times two. A powerful message for those who are struggling with suicidality, helping them find their purpose, their meaning. That's one of the questions we ask when we do a safety plan. What is the one thing that is worth living for you? I just can't imagine a world without you. To my magnificent granddaughter, Bonnie Jane Tillman, I just can't imagine a world without you. I'd actually never read the small print until right now on that. So yeah, she has, you can just look up Nancy Tillman. I have to give you a true confession as we end. I love to buy my books on Thrift Books, which is a gently used bookstore, or Second Sale, or a Libris. There's a lot of great ones there. And you can get really high quality books I figure we started a lending library here in our clinic, and clients are welcome to select any. And thank you. The book mentioned is Mastery by George Leonard. It helps me quite a bit. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, well, there is a wonderful gift list for people if you're trying to find something for someone or just for yourself. I often just buy books to for myself. But I have a big children's collection. We have a lot of grandchildren, and I love to read at all ages with them. So I encourage you, it can lift you up, it can take you to another place. Of course, there's all kinds of literature. A lot of my grandchildren are really into fantasy, and a lot of great Brandon Sanderson is one, Brandon Moe, of course, Harry Potter. Um, just really wonderful literature out there to lift, and you live through another character. You can have this kind of freedom from your mental health struggle or strain sometimes by living through the story's main characters. And I'm into some detective uh, books right now on audio. A wonderful free library audiobook series is called, or app is called Libby, Libby, and it's connected to your public library. And they have just, I've even requested books, and in time they get them. Sometimes I'm on a wait list, but I have listened to just hundreds and hundreds of books without paying a thing. And of course, there's other audiobook companies that you can have, or books on YouTube even are written out loud. But some people just love the hard copy, and some people love a Kindle, different ways that you can read. Anyway, have a great day, and happy holidays, and hope you can maybe snuggle up with a cozy book and blanket, maybe a fireplace, and enjoy a good book this holiday season. Thank you.